So this video is about 7 things I would do if I were just starting out as a songwriter today. And some of the things are going to be what I did, and some of the things are going to be a little different than what I did. But the last thing I talk about on this list, number 7, it's the most important. And it kind of saddens me that it is the most important, but that's just how it is. Let's get going. Number 1, be more artist friendly. And this one, I wasn't very artist friendly when I first started out because I didn't like writing with artists. I really didn't. Because it narrowed my creativity. You may be working on something great that day and you write with an artist and you're writing for what they're doing, and you have this great line on a song and they're like, well, I don't think I would say that. Okay, your creativity goes, whew. Well, I'm only looking for up tempos right now. Whew. So it just kind of pigeonholed you in your creativity. But seek out great new artists that are writing and singing songs that blend well with what you do. I tell you, I remember I used to write my first writing deal was with a company called King Lizard Music. And my publisher, half of my publishing team, was always telling us, you need to write with new artists. You need to get on the ground floor with these new artists. And I'll be honest, none of us really did back then. And my publisher's name was Liz Rose. If that name sounds familiar, Liz Rose wrote probably the first, it's off the top of my head, probably the first 5 or 6 songs with this young girl named Taylor Swift. And she went on to make millions of dollars writing with Taylor Swift, doing exactly what she told us to do. Now she's a big hit songwriter. So be more artist friendly if you're just starting. And anyway, go to number 2. Get familiar with recording programs like Logic and create with them. Logic Pro is great. Most of the time everybody uses either Logic or Pro Tools. Pro Tools is the industry standard. It is, it's the thing that you're going to use when you go and do stuff in big studios, record things in big studios. But Logic, it doesn't get any better than Logic when you're creating, because you can drag and drop a drum loop. You can make just drum sounds. You can go in, and there's so many things that you can do just to back what you're doing really easy. And it's important to have a fresh production now. Even if it's a simple, just acoustic version that you can just kind of soup up a little bit, sometimes it can elevate it to make it sound more modern. And I tell you what I used to do. I used to put a loop and I would bring it down in the mix where you couldn't even tell it was a loop. And you'd barely heard it, but a lot of times it brought the groove. And and I'm talking about just like guitar vocals and stuff, I'd bring it down where you could barely even hear it. And it really made a cool sound. So anyway, number 3 is, I can't talk today for some reason. Why am I doing this video when I can't talk? Learn more about things like publisher takeovers at Writers' Nights. And they have writers' night, sometimes they have publisher takeovers where all of the writers from this one publishing company play a writer's night. Well, guess what? The publishers are there. You can go in and talk to the publisher, and sometimes it's just like a round or two. Well, if you get in a round right before them, you're playing for a publisher. And keep in the loop of writers, I mean, it's like, go see people play that you want to write with. I mean, it's just common courtesy. And plus, get your face out there. Let people see you. It's really important to do that. Learn more about the craft of songwriting. Recognize techniques that others use and make them your own. Learn structure so you can break them. And I tell you what, it was a while before I actually knew that there was a craft to songwriting. At one time, I believed, like some people, that it was just magic that fell down and you either had it or you didn't. And it was just, I don't know how you do it. It's just, it just comes to you, and that is not true. Whether you know it or not, you are using techniques in songwriting that other people use because you heard their songs and you're emulating those songs. And it's just know that songwriting is a craft. It's not magic. It's not, and some people are better at it, but it is something to learn and get better at. So learn more about the business side of music. And this is important. Even if you're just starting, know how things work on the business side, because sometimes it helps you know what they want on the business side from you as a person on the creative side, and know what to give them, because a lot of times you don't understand why things happen, but if you know more about the business, you do. And it always, I tell you, one time, I will say this, when I first started coming to Nashville years and years ago, I used to play at this place called the Broken Spoke. You probably heard me talk about it. But there was this guy who come up to me and wanted to sign me as a songwriter. I hadn't even moved to town yet. I was still coming back and forth. And I was like, this is easy, Well, the guy wanted me to sign this contract that basically told me he would own every song I wrote for the rest of my life. Forever. So, thank God I didn't, I didn't sign that. I took it to people who I thought knew, and they told me not to sign it. And thank God I didn't. And so that's what I'm saying is just, be a little more savvy when it comes to songwriting. Even if you're just starting, learn as far as the contracts, as far as all of the business of how it works. Okay, number 6. Figure out what you bring to the table as a songwriter. Or, I would try to figure out more of what I brought to the table as a songwriter and hone that ability. This is very important, because most people don't know what they bring, because there's all different kinds of songwriters. You have, it's everybody, a songwriter isn't a songwriter isn't a songwriter. You have to know your ability and what you're good at, what you bring to the table that makes you different, and you hone that craft. And that's what sets you apart from everybody else. And there's a publisher at the time. It was Almo Irving Music. The guy's name was Scott Gunter. Great song guy. He was amazing. And he actually helped me get my first deal, but he never signed me as a songwriter. And I would go over there and write with his writers all the time. I wrote with Anthony Smith over there, who wrote for him. And I asked him one day, and I was like, why did you never sign me? You helped me get a deal, and you know. And he said, Chris, I didn't know in those songs that you were turning in, I didn't know which part was you. And it wasn't till years later, it's still him talking, it wasn't till years later that I realized what you brought to the table. And I can hear it in the songs now. And he goes, even when I listen to the songs back then that you wrote, I can still hear what you brought to the table, but at the time I didn't know that. It was just really interesting that, you just figure out what you do and get great at that. Okay, this is the last one. This is number 7. It's last, but definitely first in my book. Well, like I said, I wished it wasn't first, but it's going to come in 3 parts, okay? Networking, and networking. Okay, hope I got that across. Because especially nowadays, oh my God, is it so important. I mean, get your face out there and let people know you care about songwriting. Make trips. Join memberships that promote networking among songwriters. Find your clique. They got to find a clique. Learn from each other. Back in the day, I had no idea that my clique that I wrote with and that I hung out with, I went to songwriters nights. I knew they were going to be at certain songwriters nights. They ended up being some of the biggest songwriters in the world. And I was a part of that. So don't ever underestimate the power of networking. Songwriting doesn't have to be a one-person activity, even if you don't co-write. You don't even have to co-write. Go see what you're up against. It's so important because people who don't know what they're up against, they just, here's a song. Here, go play this for somebody. I see it all the time. They try to get me to play songs, the people from out of town, and they have no idea that, that, let's say that song has been written 100 times and everybody knows it. So, or that song is not good enough because they haven't been here to see what they're really up against. So, be prepared to step up to the next level. Go see what you're up against, is all I'm going to say. No one has ever made it anywhere in the music business by themselves. Go be heard. Network. It's actually nowadays online. I mean, you can do so much now online. It's crazy. Through YouTube, through, like I said, memberships. Speaking of memberships, I'm working on one right now. It's going to be called Song Builders. Be looking for that. So anyway, that is the 7 things I would do if I were just starting out as a songwriter today. My name is Chris Wallin. I'm with Building Great Songs. We'll talk to you later. Bye.